So thank you to Greg and the Connections team. We at Aspire are absolutely delighted to join you and our sister brands at the inaugural Global Travel Week to bring together a panel of experts from across the luxury travel sector. We'll be focusing on the latest trends in high-end travel and how suppliers can and should respond to the evolving needs of the luxury consumer as we move in, hopefully, to this phase of recovery and rebuilding. We have certainly seen huge changes in the demands of luxury travellers since Aspire was founded 11 years ago, but never more so than in the past 18 months, which I'm sure you have all experienced as well. And we have been working harder than ever to support, connect, inspire and inform our trade readers as we all navigate the pandemic together. During this challenging period, Aspire has actually expanded what we do to help support luxury agents and suppliers in every way possible. We've relaunched our flagship website, we've doubled the frequency of our newsletter, so if you're not signed up, come and chat to me or my colleagues later, we'll get you signed up. We've actually increased our print circulation and our digital output and added a new series of events within the UK called the Aspire Escapes, which sit alongside our flagship conference Leaders of Luxury, our international VIP event, The Retreat, which has taken place in Dubai this year, and also our Aspire Awards. Now, on that note, you have all got a preview copy of this September edition of Aspire on your seats, which is fantastic. We're delighted to be able to share this with you a day earlier than publication. However, it's got the shortlist for our awards in it. So what I will ask you to do is take a look, see which are the best brands that are really excelling in the industry, but if you can just keep it off your social media until tomorrow, because we want to share it with all of our readers at the same time. We wanted to give you guys, as our Global Travel Week audience, a preview, but we also want everyone to be excited about it at the same time and to see it all together. So do take a look, and again, if you have any questions about the awards or anything else, just come and chat to us at the end. But in essence, we are doing everything we can to support our readers and the industry as a whole as we all work towards the restart of international travel. And that's exactly what we're all here to do today as well. So let's invite our panellists to join us on stage to talk about what that restart looks like for the luxury sector. Come on up, guys. I'm delighted to welcome Finnbar Cornwall, industry leader for Google. Just come on up. Industry leader for travel at Google. Then after you. Then Arnaud Champenois, Senior Vice President and Global Head of Brand at Belmond. We've got Claire Ross, Product Director at Kuoni and architect of new tailor-made travel brand Alfred. And last but not least, we've got Rachel Angell, Chief Operating Officer at luxury London holiday home company Domus Stay. Thank you all for joining us. So we'll come to our panel discussion in just, yes, sorry, do applaud them. Thank you for giving up your time to come and speak to us. So we'll come to our panel discussion in just a few minutes, but to start us off with a wider look at the latest trends in the market, I'm going to hand over to Finnbar Cornwall for some insights from Google. Over to you, Finnbar.
Thank you very much. I was delighted to hear about the conga last night. Kimberly is actually an old family friend of mine, and it's possible she learned some of those moves in Newark, so I'll catch up on that a bit later. But first of all, my name is Finnbar. I run the travel team at Google in the UK. I wanted just to run through a little bit of data to give you a perspective on what we're seeing in the market. First of all, though, I wanted to start with this quote from our CEO. I think we can all agree it's been a time of significant change through COVID. And what we're talking to our clients about is that's going to require some big changes in how you think about your business operations, your strategy, and your marketing. And that some of those changes are going to be significant and lasting. But to get into it, there are two things that I want to talk about. The first of all is the changing travel market, some of the data that we're seeing, and then what we're hearing from consumers about their evolving needs as travelers. First of all, we see clear pent-up demand for travel. So this is some research that we did with McKinsey. You can see more than half of people are saying, what are you going to spend on when you can? It's travel. People want to get out there. They want to travel again. And I thought I'd just bring in some data from another adjacent industry, so retail, trying to understand what that means in terms of the luxury spend. So this is data here. This is looking at year to date versus 2019. And you can see the increase in searches. So what you're looking here is searches for luxury categories. Jewelry is up over 30%, apparel up over 20%, fashion and design 15%. So we're seeing through the pandemic this increase, certainly in the retail side, of people looking for luxury categories. But we've also seen this big altered economic outlook. So there's data that shows that the European travel industry has lost half of its value through the pandemic. That's $1 trillion in value. But separate to that, the Bank of England reports that the pandemic has not hit all people in the UK equally. So actually, middle and higher income households, so that's between a third and 42% of the UK population, have actually saved money through the pandemic. And then this is what it means in terms of what they want to spend money on. So this is some research that we did with McKinsey, looking at some different, some of the demographics. And you can see that apart from the baby boomers, every demographic wants to spend more money on travel, have got higher intent to splurge, but particularly so in the Gen Z category. We'll talk a bit more about what that might mean and how you want to reach those consumers. And this is some data from Google. This is our internal data. We have a product that's dedicated just to hotels. And what we've seen, this is Q3 this year versus Q3 last year, that actually if you look at hotels that cost more than $300 a night, and if we use that as a signal of luxury, actually there's been 6% more bookings for those hotels than there were at the same period in 2019. Obviously, underneath that, it's actually been lower. There's been a drop-off. So taken together, we have seen an interest from consumers to spend money. We know there's a wall of money that's sitting on the sidelines of people that are in high and middle-income households. We know that they have started to spend that, and they've started to spend that on higher-priced hotels. I want to talk a little bit about the changing seasonality. Now, all of you in the travel business will recognize the blue lines in the middle. And those blue lines is what demand looked like from a Google perspective when people came and searched for travel, 2016, 2017, 2018, and 2019. It was basically the same. We saw a peak at the start of the year of people searching, a gradual ramp up over the summer, and then a back-to-school bookings around about now. And then this red line is what happened through COVID, and it totally inversed. And so the challenge for all of us as businesses is that the historical data you had about how people looked for you, how they came to you, who they stayed with, all of that doesn't exist anymore. You can't draw on that data. And so if that's what 2020 looked like, this is what 2021 looks like. There's a few lines on here, but I think this is a really, really important graph that I just want to walk you through. So what you can see here, this is searches on Google for travel. And the colored lines at the top, so the blue line at the bottom is the UK, but above that you can see data for Spain, France, Germany, and Italy. So this is searches for travel. And you can see that in Europe, demand for travel, and this is versus 2019, you can see that in Europe from the summer, from May, demand in Europe was above 2019 levels. But look at the UK, just kind of flatlining underneath Europe and struggling to kind of catch up. But it's my belief, and at Google, for all our data, we can't predict the future with any greater 100% certainty, but it's my belief that as some of the restrictions lift in the UK, and we saw that 2 weeks ago in the US last week, you'll see the UK catch up with Europe, and you'll see this demand for travel look like what it does in Europe. And the other thing I think just worth taking from this data is even though we recovered in Europe, can you just see some of the spikes in the European data? And I'm sure you might have felt that from your customers, just these surges of demands as, oh, I can travel. People waiting till the last minute to book until they know they could travel. So that's a little bit about some of the data that we've seen. And then I thought I'd talk a bit more about the evolving traveler. So we've been running consumer surveys at Google since the start of the pandemic, every month. In fact, we were running them weekly initially to understand how people's intentions were changing towards travel. And our latest survey tells us that only 8% of people in the UK are thinking of traveling internationally. It's a pretty small number. That's within the next 6 months. When we ask them why they don't want to travel internationally, you can see the reasons here. Now, it won't surprise you, the top 3 reasons there are basically all COVID-related. Worries about getting stuck, health and safety, cancellation by travel provider. But I just want to draw your attention to the 4th one, which is the cost of going on holiday. That used to be a primary driver of why people were worried. That is actually its highest score in all the surveys we've been running since the start of COVID. So it's starting to come back as a cost of concern, and some of these COVID concerns are beginning to recede. But let's peel the onion back just one more layer and ask, okay, what is it about financial concerns that's worrying people as they think about travel? You can see, again, it's kind of COVID-related. It's money-back guarantees, it's deals and discounts, it's no cancellation fees. They're worried about that. They need that flexibility. But again, I just want to draw your attention to deals and discounts, which is number 2 here. That is the highest level it's been since the start of COVID. And money-back guarantee is the lowest level it's been. And so I think lots of my clients and partners that I'm talking to are thinking about what is it I need to be communicating to consumers about to reassure them to travel, about deals and discounts, about flexibility, free cancellation. So whilst all of that is important, our data suggests that that's beginning to recede, and you're beginning to see some of those normal concerns about cost of traveling, deals and discounts coming back in as concerns. I think you're going to see that increase over the next 6 months, 9 months as travel recovers. But we are still seeing this. We have seen this huge surge in staycations. So nearly a third of Brits are still telling us that they want to stay in the UK. They're going to travel domestically over the next 6 months. That demand is still there, this domestic demand. This is some research we actually did in the summer, and I think this is also interesting. So 40% of consumers tell us that they've purchased from a new company. When they have done travel, 40% have purchased from a new company. What we're seeing is people aren't sticking with their existing brands who they used to go and buy with. And the reason why they're switching brands, when we ask them, is price, value, deals, and rewards. It's a price-led kind of change. So I think there's a couple of things that I've pointed to through here about what does your consumer look like? What does your customer look like? If you can't rely on the historical models you've had, if all that data over the last, what we used to know existed, no longer existed, we've seen this change in the market over the last couple of years in terms of demand. You've got Generation Z, who've got a lot of money, who want to come and spend it on travel, who are willing to try a new brand, so you can't rely on customer loyalty. I think these are some of the things to be thinking about, is how you come back and how you grow back profitably. And this is one other thing we're seeing then in terms of change behavior, is actually travelers are seeking more help from travel advisors. Totally understand it. With all the uncertainty, can I travel, can't I travel, what does it look like? We are seeing people wanting more from getting help from a travel agent, seeking advice compared to the pre-pandemic period. And to all of you that are providing a bespoke experience, a luxury experience, I think there is a demand for that. People want that help. And so with that, I'll stop. I was asked to give a short summary, and I think we'll turn over to the panel.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Finnbar. There's definitely lots to pick up on in there, and I'm sure we'll be delving into some of those insights in more detail as we go on. Let's bring in the rest of the panel for the latest from their various areas of the market. So starting with Arnaud, who's just straight here to my left. Arnaud, can you update us on the picture for Belmond? We know many of your properties are back open. Some of them are even expanding, aren't they? But what's the situation worldwide across your various different product lines?
First of all, thanks for having me today.
Thank you for joining us.
I think it depends where we are in the world. I think in Europe, we are fortunate. We had a very good summer at Belmond, especially in our Italian portfolio. We have very beautiful, iconic properties in Italy, and we saw an incredible demand over the summer. We were almost fully booked everywhere, very high occupancy, very good ADR. So we were very, very happy. I think what has changed is the market mix. Before, we were very focused on the US and British customers, and we've seen an incredible amount of French customers, Italian customers, Northern Europe, so very Germany. So very, very different type of customers for our portfolio, and I think it's going to last. UK, very, very interesting market for us with the Cadogan here in London, also Le Manoir aux Quatre Saisons in Oxfordshire, fully booked until the end of the year. So, we really have this kind of incredible local markets who are really, really keen to travel and explore their own country. So domestic market, huge boom. And then it's very difficult still for Southeast Asia, Latin America, South Africa. So here we are still suffering very, very, very much. So it varies.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting when you've got that both short haul and long haul product, you can kind of see the comparison between that. And Claire, you're in the same position with Kuoni. So tell us what's the latest. I mean, you've restarted operations to many of your destinations. And of course, the news about the Maldives coming off the red list and off the Foreign Office advised list must have been very welcome at Kuoni HQ. But what's the picture like globally across the various regions that you work in? Are you seeing the same as Arnaud in that difference between the short haul and long haul markets?
Yeah, very much. I mean, demand at the moment is very much driven by can travel rather than the traditional trends. I think broadly as a brand, though, as tour operators, we haven't stopped operating. That's been, our operations have continued, and it's been very much around looking after customers on an individual basis, rebooking, retention. So that's very much continued throughout. And then, the immediate trends are very late and where you can travel, and it's really encouraging now to get some long-haul destinations, and we are seeing now a lot more confidence in that forward booking. That all said, because we are typically attractive to special occasion bookers, we have got quite a lot of forward business. They're pretty robust as a market. They have an occasion that they want to celebrate. They've got a very good reason. And so further out, we are seeing long-haul destinations, Southeast Asia, Africa, that have got good demand, but we're going 2022 and 2023.
Yeah, I suppose if you're getting married and you want to book your honeymoon, or you've got a 50th birthday or something like that, you're going to celebrate it regardless, even if you have to wait a little while to do it. And I know you brought out this really exciting kind of expanded Europe programme, which we will come and touch on in a bit when we talk about some of those destinations. But Rachel, let's bring you in here, because I think many of our audience won't yet have heard of Domus Stay. It's quite brave of you to launch a new brand in the middle of a pandemic, but of course your background is in the Dorchester collection and various other luxury hotel brands. So tell us a bit about what you're doing, and what gap in the market was it that you spotted and sparked you to set up this brand?
Yeah, thank you. So yes, Doma Stay, we are a new brand. We were due to launch actually last summer, and then last summer happened. So we were finally able to launch in the spring, just after Easter actually. It's obviously been a really challenging time, and if any of you think about launching a new business in the middle of a global pandemic, maybe I probably might not be the best idea. But certainly, recently, I would say, August, our inquiries doubled. Actually, just last week, we doubled the entire inquiry for September. So we are certainly seeing demand coming back in. It's quite last minute, as you were saying. And it's longer stays as well. So, but good to see the demand coming in after kind of a period of uncertainty.
Absolutely, and doubling your inquiries in 1 month certainly feels like we are on a bit of an upward trend there, which is really exciting. So I want to focus, we're talking about how we're going to recover from the pandemic and how international travel will restart. I want to focus first on the short to medium term, and let's call that kind of 6 to 9 months, end of this year into the first half of 2022, and just see what effect has the pandemic had on the needs and the wants of luxury travellers. Finnbar, you had some brilliant stats in that presentation, which I'm sure everyone will have been scribbling down, but you said 32 to 42% of UK high middle income households and retirees had actually increased their savings. You also mentioned sort of increase in domestic travel, etc. So what sort of impact do you think that sort of pot of money will have on the way luxury consumers actually want to travel in that short to medium term?
Yeah, I think we pointed to people want help. It's to curation and help. I think that's what we see people wanting, and that's a little bit what I'm hearing from my partners. I think that's the first thing. I think the second thing to think about is this change in how people are finding and consuming information. And so we touched a bit there, but also what we're seeing is that the Generation Z that you saw that had all that, the highest propensity to travel amongst the highest income, they now watch more than an hour of YouTube every day. 40% of luxury consumers go to YouTube to find out information. We've seen huge increases at Google, we categorize things into brand searches for like Belmond or like generic Maldives or travel. We've seen huge increases actually in the sort of generic searches. So we've seen people doing much more of this like inspiration type research, wanting visuals, wanting to look at videos, consuming online kind of digital videos. So I see people getting inspiration there in that way, and so think about how people are going to find that information. And then once they know where they want to go, they're looking for more help to get there and actually that curation.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's exciting to see how people are consuming that information and what the delegates here can actually do with that information and make sure that they are reaching those audiences. I also, we've heard a lot about people trading up, I think, from that kind of mid-market to more luxury brands, whether it's just, they're going on fewer but longer, more expensive holidays, or whether they're splashing out on that kind of first big holiday post-COVID. I mean, Claire, I want to come back to you because you mentioned honeymoons there. And we reported just yesterday that the average honeymoon booking value, I think, for your customers had gone up from 2019, 7,985 to £9,045 in 2022. So a 13% increase. I think we'd all take a 13% increase in booking value. So what do you think is behind that? Is it the destination? Is it people wanting to just have a bit more time, longer duration, or just trading up in terms of the hotel choice?
So I think there are a few things at play. So for Kuoni in particular, we don't necessarily deal with individuals of high net worth. We're dealing with people who have an individual occasion, honeymoons, but other special occasions. And it might be the most expensive holiday they buy in their lifetime, and they come to us to organise that. And what we're seeing is more people wanting to do that. So that's part of what we're seeing, and it's a short-term trend. People have saved, people have got money, and they're ready to have that experience, and they want a very special holiday. Then secondly, in terms of the people who are spending and why their average booking value is going up, what we're seeing is it's a real mix. So one of the parts of that spend is business class travel. So honeymooners actually typically with us would travel in World Traveller Plus. They're going up to business class, so that's our highest growing category. They're trading up on the standard of accommodation. Not so much duration, it's what they're adding into their holiday. They're booking more experiences before they go, and those are the things going into the mix. Actually, the durations are fairly static year on year.
Fantastic. And Arnaud, is that something you're seeing as well? I mean, I know Belmond launched this series of European escapes, which was sort of, nice sailing experiences, rail experiences, etc. Are you seeing people kind of taking up those additional experiences that you can offer? And are you also seeing new customers coming to Belmond? Because as Finnbar mentioned, 40% of people are booking suddenly with a new brand. Are you seeing an influx of customers who've never booked and stayed with you before?
Yeah, I think travel is a luxury again. So I think people want to invest time and more money, and they want to really make it exceptional. So that's why I think we see a really high demand for luxury travel. And we are very fortunate to have this incredible portfolio of hotels, but as well trains, boats. We can really offer like a travel journey. And I think especially the young generation, they want to travel with in style. And there is also something very interesting at the moment. I think glamour is back. When they travel, they want to experience that glamour, and that the idea of like taking the Orient Express, for instance, to go to Venice, but then to take the boat to reach Cipriani. So you have this kind of, the journey is almost as important as the destination, So you really feel that luxury of traveling, that legendary art of travel. And at Belmond, it's really our purpose to promote that art of traveling. And I think there is a real need at the moment for this dream.
Definitely. I mean, travel is supposed to be fun. We are allowed to have fun again. It's okay. So, yeah, it is exciting to hear that. And Rachel, let's just come to you, because I think you've got perhaps a slightly different customer base in many ways. And I know we've talked in the past about you're seeing a bit of a blurring between leisure travel and business travel and people kind of staying for a bit longer. I know we've reported on hotels kind of around the world launching these workations where you go and stay for 3 weeks or a month, and you maybe do a bit of work in between because you can work remotely, and then you also go and enjoy your cocktails on the beach or whatever. Is that something you're seeing in the London market as well?
Yes, that's true. But I actually think that, so certainly, for example, the blurring of kind of business and leisure is definitely true. And you can see that because, in terms of our inquiries, they're much longer. So once, we've got someone staying with us for 9 months at the moment. So once that happens, you're not just here on holiday, you're doing some work at some point, probably, maybe. But I also think that actually this was happening before the pandemic. It's only been accelerated by it. I think to your point, actually, about the special occasions, certainly if I think back to work that we were doing at Dorchester Collection, we actually identified quite early on that special occasions were, for us and for our hotels, a really important reason why people were travelling, rather than the kind of the classic business leisure kind of categories. Actually kind of listening to your customer, to your guests a bit deeper and understanding the reasons why people are travelling is important. And yeah, you can see that coming out in the reasons that people are travelling now.
Absolutely, yeah. And I kind of also, I want to look a bit further into the future as well, into next year, kind of beyond the summer and how we go into a slightly longer term recovery. So pandemic aside, I want to kind of touch on what some of the key drivers that are shaping luxury travellers' purchasing decisions, whether it is staying somewhere for a longer time, whether it's, getting back out and doing that special occasion travel. But actually, I want to pick up, Finnbar, on one of the stats that you mentioned there. And I know it's from the US, but you said, and it really stood out to me with our trade audience, 81% of agents are hearing from customers who hadn't used an agent before. Now, I know that's from the US, but I'm sure we are, also seeing the same picture in the UK and in Europe around our audience. Do you think, I'm going to ask you to just look into your crystal ball a little bit, but do you think that is going to last? Is that going to be one of the things that actually carries through beyond the pandemic and sees a bit of a resurgence of the role of that travel advisor?
I think it's always wary to draw too many longer term trends out of what's happened over the last year or 18 months. I think on average, it'd be interesting to see the extent to which you get a mean reversion to like previous behaviors and what kind of lasts. I think some of the things that will last is definitely more flexibility and work-life balance. I think that will happen. I can definitely see through the next year people wanting that bespoke experience. I think the opportunity then sits with all the brands where people come to them to make that a sustained behavior. Mm-hmm. I think that's the opportunity, because I don't know if it will necessarily, I don't know if consumer behavior will stay the same, but I think people are going to test and try it, and the opportunity is to show consumers that this is a value-add experience for them. I've been talking to lots of people, and I don't know if this analogy will work, but does anyone remember a game called Hungry Hippos? Where there were like balls and hippos, and you had to grab the marbles. Do you remember that? I sort of think like the next 9 months or 12 months is going to be a bit like that for everybody in the travel industry, where like all those marbles is basically consumers coming to market and wanting to travel. If you get your proposition right, I think you can grab a bunch of those marbles and you can bring people into your business. And then I think it's down to you to show consumers that it's that's you're adding value in that process.
Absolutely, and I can see both Claire and Arnaud nodding there. So Claire, I'm going to come to you first, because that sort of bespoke experience I think is really important. It's what it's what you do at Kuoni, but also you've got this new brand, Alfred, which is all about tailor-made journeys. So how do you see that sort of carrying through past the pandemic? That's mostly focused in Asia at the moment, isn't it? So you are obviously taking quite a long-term view on that.
Yeah, so we started Alfred. So Alfred is the first name of our founder. So it's Alfred Kuoni. So it's our more informal part of our brand, and it's very much around experiences and connecting people with people. So Alfred and Asia, Alfred and the bartender who introduces you to the best cocktail. That's really the concept. And, that's a trend that's been fairly continuous, and we were really determined that pre-pandemic that we needed to have something that had that very high-touch, expert-led approach, but was also very personal. And we didn't hide all of the people along the chain. It was very much about introducing them. Sadly, Alfred and Asia launched in December 2019, but we had a phenomenal response in the first 2 months of booking. It was peaks, very, very strong response. And whilst we're not taking bookings now, or rather not departing, we're still taking bookings. As a business, we've backed that as a long-term trend. We're actually expanding, so we've added new destinations over the course of the last 18 months, and we're actually expanding into new regions as well. So we very much still believe in that, but I think it's a really good point that we have an opportunity now to demonstrate our value, demonstrate the expertise that we can bring to the process and really generate loyalty. And I think that's the opportunity for everyone as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And Arnaud, obviously you were nodding as well. So is that, are you seeing kind of longer term kind of overarching trends that are shaping the product that you offer to customers? I mean, I was chatting with one of your colleagues earlier in the year about the new Belmond Splendido Mare in Portofino. And, you know, she said something that I just think it really stuck in my mind. She said it's kind of a former fisherman's house. So you can't suddenly go and put a chandelier in it. It's got to be authentic. It's got to be about the destination. So are you seeing that kind of demand for bespoke experiences, for meeting local characters, for having something that feels part of the destination you're in? Is that shaping the product that you are now looking towards the future?
Yeah, 100%. I think travelers today, they want to get that destination under their skin, you know, they want to meet the people, they want to really eat locals, they want to... Authenticity in travel is everything today. And so that's why partners like here in the audience, they are very instrumental in curating the right experiences for the guest. The guests are more and more demanding, and they want that curation. They want that special local expertise. We just launched, you mentioned, a tour. It's called Curiosity Circles. It's mostly in Italy, and the program is to meet the experts behind craftsmanship, behind food, so it's how you really connect with the experts and the gurus of the destination. So it's definitely this great need that the traveler have to understand the local population, but in a very authentic way.
Absolutely. Finnbar, yeah, come on in.
I think that's true. But the one thing that, like, I think, and I was saying this like before the pandemic, and I might be different in this, but to me, luxury is when human beings get out of the process. And so for me, luxury is checking into a plane on my phone, walking through security as quickly as possible, getting onto the plane. And so it's interesting to and so I think the interesting thing to find out as we go forward, right, is how you get that right balance of people getting used to contactless experiences with the luxury elements of the immersive, which you want. And so I think that's going to be this very interesting challenge of like, how do you get the technology right, where people get the ability to order from the table on an app, which people have got used to, being able to check in perhaps remotely on their phone, get into a hotel room with the immersive experience of kind of getting under the skin. I don't know what you were disagreeing.
Well, yeah, actually, 2 points I would make. First of all, on the contactless thing, so I went to a conference last week, and it was for short-term rentals, more short-term apartment type sectors, so not so much kind of private property. And all the chat there was about contactless entry and all of that stuff. Now, obviously in hotels, for a long time, we've been falling over each other to try and kind of, how do you make the check-in experience quicker and all of that stuff. I think in the luxury market, I think you're right. There is a balance to be struck, absolutely. But to join back up with the conversation we were just having about actually kind of human connection, for me, relationships is key. And actually, yes, there is a time where you do want to just kind of get into your room and not have to kind of do the chat, but also there's another experience where it's perfectly relevant to have your hand held and to just relax and not have to think about anything or do anything for yourself. You're just kind of wafted into this beautiful experience. And that absolutely comes down to relationship, 100%. So even if it is not the case that, I think it is relevant that people are talking to agencies and are looking for advice and so on. But I think certainly what I extrapolate from that, and for Doma Stay, it's not just about an amazing property. I can offer that to you, but we also offer our guests a dedicated point of contact all the way through the experience. And certainly from a Daughters to Collection perspective as well, that one point of contact, whether it's from a booker or for a guest or whoever it is, that was the number one thing that people were asking us for. I think the other thing to say as well, and just referencing the point, Arnaud, that you made about authenticity and also just from a Gen Z perspective and others, this kind of live like a local, of course, I mean, Airbnb have built an incredibly successful business. on that soundbite, but I think it's true. People are looking to be immersed into experiences, and they are looking for something that's genuine and authentic, and that's something that was happening before the pandemic and will continue to happen.
They want to learn from their trip. So they want to get something from their trip. So it's not only connecting with the locals, but it's connecting with the experts, you know, the best people who really know what they are talking about, you know.
Yeah, and it's going back with some of those insights. I know your new ownership structure is kind of giving you some insights as well into that kind of luxury consumer mindset and what people are looking for.
So yeah, so you know, Belmond is now part of LVMH, so Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy. So being part of this portfolio of 75 luxury brands, such as Dior, Dom Perignon, Loro Piana, it's very interesting because for us, it's a way to also build partnerships for our guests, but also categories are blending today on the market. So it's very interesting to see that people are traveling, but they want to consume travel, but they want to buy art. They want to have a great food and beverage experience at the same time. They want to see a concert. So everything is like mixed in a luxurious type of experience.
Okay. Now, I'm afraid we are running short of time. I think we could talk about all of these trends. We could go into it a lot more depth. But I'm just going to ask, to wrap up a little bit, just in sort of one or two sentences, nothing too detailed. What do you think is the one kind of key takeaway or one piece of advice that you could offer to the delegates who are here trying to meet the needs of the luxury traveller over the next kind of 6 months to a year as we rebuild and restart post-pandemic? And Anna, I'm going to come to you and we'll just go in order.
One more thing. I think we have a website. I need to promote. We have a new trade website called Belmond Pro, P-R-O, and I invite everybody, if you want to discover more about Belmond, to join this new website and to get all the information directly. It's available for the trade population, and it's very much you can download all the content. It's very easy to reuse, and it's a great new tool. To be in contact daily with you. I think what is important today is to think out of the box. I think customers today, they want to have exceptional experiences, so we need to perpetuate this legendary art of travel, as I was saying earlier, and to try to think out of the box to make them dream, and to kind of like re-enchant this daily life.
Absolutely. Enjoy travel again. Enjoy things. Claire, what your one takeaway?
I think we should have confidence in our experience through the last 18 months, and share our opinions. At the end of the day, the way that we're going to encourage our marbles to stick with us is to make sure that our guests can trust us. And I think as long as we continue to be opinionated and confident in the service that we can add, we will deliver that.
I would say yes and to both of the above. For me, it's about the customer, 100%. Just focus on the customer, listen to what it is that they're talking about. And if you're talking about loyalty, actually, it's all about relationships. Luxury has always been about relationships, and it will continue to be so, I think.
Absolutely. And Finnbar, I know you've got some digital tools and things that people can actually access some of those great insights that you were offering us earlier. So where can people find those?
Yeah, so we have built a couple of tools that everyone can use. You can go into Google. If you search for the Google Travel blog, you'll see the updates. There's Travel Insights Finder, there's Hotel Insights Finder. You can get information about what demand looks like, where it's coming from, into what destinations, the changing profile. And the one thing I think I'd want to leave you with is that the profile of your customer has changed. You can't rely on the old brand loyalty. 40% of people are trying a new customer. They're getting that information differently. They're getting it through video. They're searching in different places for it. So be willing to experiment, find different ways of doing it. And if you get it right, the opportunity, I think, over the next 12 months is huge to grow your business and recover.
Absolutely. Well, that's a nice positive note to end on. So thank you very much. Thank you very much to everyone on the panel, to Finnbar, to Claire, Rachel and Arnaud. Enjoy the rest of the day, and I'm going to hand back over to Greg. Thank you.